Gene Hackman was a Hollywood icon, but to his three children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie Hackman, he was a distant, almost mythical figure. As the world mourned his passing, they were left confronting a lifetime of unanswered questions, missed moments, and silence. For years, they never spoke publicly about their father. But after his death at 95, they finally broke their silence, revealing the painful truth about their relationship with the legendary actor. The father they barely knew. Gene Hackman was a rising star when he became a father, but fame came at a cost: his absence. In the early years, he struggled to make a name for himself, living in a tiny, cold apartment in New York with his first wife, Faye Maltese. Their first child, Christopher, was born in 1960, followed by Elizabeth in 1962 and Leslie in 1966. As his career took off, his role as a father faded away. He was rarely home, missing birthdays, school events, and everyday moments. Christopher later recalled, "I remember waiting for him to come home, but most of the time, he never did." By the time Hackman divorced their mother in 1986, he had become a stranger to his own children. Decades of silence. After the divorce, Hackman started a new life with Betsy Arakawa, his second wife, further distancing himself from his children. Christopher tried to reconnect, but received only brief, awkward phone calls. Elizabeth got one final Christmas card with no personal message, just wishing you all the best. Leslie barely knew him at all, saying, "He was more like a character in a movie than a real father to me." The last time Christopher saw his father was in a small diner in Santa Monica. Hackman, struggling for words, simply said, "I lost track of my son very early." The conversation ended in silence, a silence that would last until his death. Hackman's final years, a lonely goodbye. In his final years, Hackman lived in seclusion in New Mexico. He avoided Hollywood, rarely gave interviews, and kept his personal life locked away. But after his death, his children discovered something shocking. His home was filled with family photos. Christopher as a child, holding a baseball. Elizabeth at her kindergarten graduation. Leslie as a toddler, learning to walk with her father's help. For decades, he had kept his distance, but in the end, he had surrounded himself with the memories he had once ignored. They also found unsent letters, one for each of them. The message was simple. "I know it's too late to apologize, but if you're reading this, it means I found a little courage not to take my regrets to the grave." Breaking the silence. For the first time in decades, Hackman's children spoke publicly about their father. At a press conference, they didn't speak with anger, but with acceptance. Christopher said, "He wasn't a perfect father. In fact, for many years, he was almost non-existent to us, but he was our father." Elizabeth added, "We're not here to defend or justify him. We just want people to understand that behind every Hollywood legend, there are shadows." Leslie, who had remained silent her entire life, delivered the final words. "If there's anything we learned from our father, it's that sometimes silence is more cruel than words. Today, we choose to break that silence." They answered no further questions and walked away, finally free from their father's shadow. The price of fame. The world remembers Gene Hackman as a legend, but his children remember him as a distant figure, a man who spent his life chasing success, only to realize too late what he had lost. Hollywood gives fame, but it also takes away time. Time Hackman spent on film sets instead of at home, time that his children could never get back. "We knew him as a legend," Christopher said, "but we lost him as a father." In the end, Gene Hackman left behind two legacies, one in Hollywood history and one in the hearts of his children. And for them, it wasn't the awards or the movies that mattered. It was the years of silence that they would never forget.